Hello and welcome. What turns an ordinary man into a hero, and what sacrifices does he have to make? It's a theme explored in an award-winning movie made in Jordan. Captain Abu Raed, which has won critical acclaim around the world, is now opening in the US.
Captain Abu Raed.
Captain Abu Raed's the first feature film to come out of Jordan in decades. It centers around a man who had dreams of traveling around the world and making new friends, but instead finds himself living a quiet life, working as a janitor in Amman's international airport. Overlooked by those around him, Abu Raed watches passengers travel to all the exotic places he's read about, and in the process he becomes a careful observer of the world around him. Abu Raed's world is uncomplicated until a group of neighborhood children become an important part of his life, revealing some of the disturbing issues they face at home. On today's show, we look at the story behind the making of Captain Abu Raed and ask, can a story from the streets of Jordan send a much broader message? Remember, you can join our conversation with your questions and comments. Log on to livestation.com/AJE, enter the chat room and take part, and we'll welcome your phone calls onto the show as well. Well, joining me now from London is the star of Captain Abu Raed, Nadeem Sawalha. You may also recognize him from his roles in Syriana, The Spy Who Loved Me, and The Living Daylights. And here in Washington, I'm joined by the film's writer and director, Amin Matakla. Gentlemen, I welcome you both to the program.
Thank you for having us, sir.
Amin, if I could start with you and ask why you made this film. What made you tackle this particular issue?
Well, it started, my producer, David Pritchard, said, I thought I'd be making American films, and he said, no, go back to Jordan, make a movie in Jordan. There's a need for something like that. And initially the script started with just the story of the social classes in Amman without any real conflict. And then as I was doing research, I found that there's actually some social issues that I can tackle and tie it into without being political or dealing with religion, but just kind of focusing on things that are universal.
So what did you find to be the hardest thing about making the idea come to life?
The hardest thing, I mean, it's organic, so when you're in it, you're not really aware of anything that becomes too difficult. You just take it little step by step and baby steps, and it was actually a lot of fun and a lot of learning along the way.
Right. Yeah. Well, Nadeem Sawalha, it's great to speak with you again. I've had the pleasure of seeing you in person and seeing the film as well. I want to congratulate you on that as well, and ask, why is this such an important film? Why do you think people should see it?
Because we always expect the extraordinary in life, and it's wonderful to see just ordinary people living their daily lives and making a difference in that life. I think, apart from the fact that the image of the Arab is a little bit weird around the world, and therefore to see just ordinary Arabs going about their daily business every day and being just ordinary, decent human beings is wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about the fact that you actually had met Amin, who's sitting here next to me in Washington, D.C. You met him when he was just 16 years old. You had been a passenger on his father being a pilot, actually. You'd been a passenger on the plane, and then ended up meeting Amin when he was 16. Tell me about that.
Yes, his father called me into the cockpit and said, my son is mad about films. You are going to Jordan to make a film. Can he come and watch you for a day? I said, yes, I'd be delighted to meet him. He came. I introduced him to the people on the floor, Blake Edwards and people like that. He spent a day with us, tracking us around. And then, he hugged me, said goodbye, goodbye. I never heard from him for 16 years. I didn't know where he was, what he did. And one day I was having dinner here in London, and he rang me up and he said, I've written a film script about a gentleman like you, and I would like you to play Captain Abu Raed. I was delighted because it was the most wonderful homecoming any man can hope for.
That's a wonderful.
After 50 years sailing the northern seas, Amin returned me to the warm waters.
Right. Well, I want to ask you to take on a question we got through Facebook. One of our viewers wrote in from Somalia. Muhammad Ali Afguya wrote in saying, why did it take so long for the first feature film to come out of Jordan? Was it a lack of funding or a lack of will?
I think it's a combination of things. Probably funding is one of the, struggles that every film anywhere has. And I think maybe some resources that were kind of hoped to be allocated for film back in the 80s ended up being absorbed by Jordan Television. And I think it's just very timely that the Royal Film Commission came about in 2003, and I think they really helped. They helped me kind of see that film is taken seriously in Jordan. And I just had made a bunch of short films that people responded to when they screened them, and I realized, okay, well, maybe there can be actually a film that we can make in Jordan.
In fact, Nadeem, as you were saying, you returned to those warm waters, returning home. The crew and the cast were mostly of Arab origin, just a few Westerners included in that mix. But considering you've worked extensively in Hollywood as well, and you know both sides, how did you find this particular experience making the film there in Jordan?
It was thrilling, because when I left Jordan, there was hardly anything. And when I came back, 50 years later, I found this new generation, these marvelous young people who were so keen and so disciplined. Their discipline equaled the best I witnessed around the world. And it was very, very exciting to see, my country develop in that way. And they were fine, lovely people to work with.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's take a look at one of those more memorable scenes from the film. There's a bit where you, as, you befriended these children as Captain Abu Raed, and then you're exposed at the airport as just a janitor. It's one of the more powerful scenes. Let's have a quick look. I mean, that's, what's so interesting and powerful about that is the fact that those children were all from the refugee camps. They weren't professional actors, and yet they have so much powerful emotion in what they do as well.
Yeah, you look into their eyes, and when we were casting, we met about 200 kids at Palestinian refugee camps. And when you look into their eyes, you see a raw instinct, raw intelligence, and they inspired me while we were shooting. I learned from them, I think, as much as they learned from me or the crew. That we were all working together and feeding off of each other. So.
It's interesting also, Nadeem, to hear you say in an interview about this film that after spending so many years riding horses and camels and always playing those sort of parts, you finally got the beautiful young woman. So I want to show a quick scene from where in the movie the flight attendant brings you a present from overseas. Let's have a look at this.
أنا هلا جيت من نيويورك.
يا الحمد لله على السلامة. نيويورك
بحب نيويورك.
طبعا.
وأنا هناك فكرت فيك، قلت لحالي إذا ما بقدر أخذك على نيويورك يمكن بقدر أجيب لك شقفة من نيويورك إلك.
واو. شكرا. Thank you.
So after getting such a beautiful woman, Nadeem, I guess you're going to have higher expectations than any new roles you take on.
No, it shows you if you wait long enough, you get the prize. If you wait around. Yes, I won't work with any more horses or camels, I promise. Yeah.
Well, listen, at this point, we've got to take a break. Nadeem, I want to thank you very much and congratulations on your role there as well. Now, after the break...
It's a pleasure to see you again.
And good likewise. After the break, we'll look at the sensitive issue of child abuse, which is highlighted in this film. And as we pause, we remind you, you can join the conversation with your questions and comments by logging on to livestation.com and entering the chat room. You can see the debate is taking place in there if you just log on there. Let me leave you with another excerpt from Captain Abu Raed, where the issue of abuse starts to become evident. We'll be right back.
صدقتوني؟ شو؟ ما سألتوا الزبال؟ غار؟ شو بدي غار؟ بس أنا خايف عليكم لتقوموا تسدوا الكذاب. مش كذاب! فكروا فيها. لو إنه طيار ما كان عايش عنا هون بالحارة. بحب الحارة يا حمار. مش طيار! مراد شو؟ تبوك وزرك في الليل؟ خليكم عايشين بالخيال.